Which one is going to be more scarce at the end of the day? Is it going to be Pulse or PulseX? People have been arguing about this for a long time. I discovered this old Reddit post from 4 years ago where people were having this debate. These two coins are going to get very, very scarce as time goes on, as they already are. And if you don't have a position right now, you're going to want to watch this to decide which one you want. Now, I have both, but the debate that people have been having for 4 years now is whether or not Pulse is going to be more scarce than PulseX. And I've got some interesting stuff to show you to prove just how few holders PulseX has and why currently PulseX seems pretty attractive, but that could change. Because look at this 4 years ago from Reddit. Okay, people have been talking about this since even before PulseChain launched. Every time there's a block mined on PulseChain, just like Ethereum, 25% of the fees are burned forever. And this creates deflationary pressure. However, every block that's mined also pays out a block reward to the validators, which creates inflationary pressure. So on PLS, these two forces balance against each other. Okay, and when there's more activity on the Pulse network, eventually the fee burning exceeds the fee rewards that are minted. So you have a net deflationary only when the network gets more usage. Right now, PulseChain is very, very minorly inflationary with like 0.1%, but we've seen it be deflationary a lot of the time when there's a lot more activity. Now, PulseX is purely deflationary. Okay, there will never ever be any inflation on PulseX because it started with a finite supply. And if you're new to this channel, you need to know one thing about PulseX. All the trading fees that go through the main decentralized exchange, PulseX.com, they get bought and burned. Some fraction of them gets bought and burned, and this is constant automated buy pressure, which moves the price up, and burn pressure, which takes the supply down, which is the two best things you could do for the price. I'm bullish on both, and the age-old debate is which one's going to burn harder. Now, you also have Pump.Tires, which burns PLS from all of the degen, meme coin trading over on Pump.Tires. So imagine if Pump.Fun burned Solana instead of giving it to a rich guy. Pump.Tires does that. So you have to factor that in too. Even though PulseChain's minorly inflationary, what if the deflation actually comes from, meme coin gambling? But PulseX just cannot be ignored, and I have to show you guys this. This is over on Reddit, and this guy is trying to figure this out 4 years ago. He says, wouldn't the 25% fee burn be more powerful than anything that's traded on Pulse? And that's a pretty good point. I mean, you need Pulse to trade in general, so everyone has to buy Pulse to trade on PulseX for the gas fees. So as they're using PulseX more, they're also using Pulse more. But like I said, Pulse also has that inflationary component that has to pay out the block rewards to new validators. That's why, if you stake your Pulse in a validator, you get 10% APY. That APY comes from inflation. But then there's deflation at the same time. So it's complicated. Nobody knows the answer. It's going to fluctuate over time. But the really crazy thing to realize is that let's look over here. Look at the PulseX chart right here. We've actually got to go to pulsecoinlist.com now. We could see that $36 million worth of Pulse has been burned just from people trading. It doesn't matter what meme coins, what gambling they're doing, trading degen stuff all day. It's still putting buy pressure on your PulseX bag because you're owning a piece of the casino. If you're new to crypto, you need to understand the opportunity that's in front of you here. It's a very simple mechanism where even if people aren't trading the coin you own, in a way they're pushing it up for you just by being degens. Okay, $36 million burned forever, and that was bought too. It was bought up and then burned using the trading fees that people are, trading on PulseX. Now the total supply is 141 trillion, but the origin address owns about 90% and keeps it dormant, typically. I mean, so far, that supply is dormant and has not moved. And if we exclude the origin address, we can see that $36 million worth of PulseX is 1.43 trillion tokens. Now, 1.43 trillion out of 17 trillion. This is almost 1/10 of the circulating supply. So when this gets a little bit higher, after only 2 years, about 10% of the circulating supply has been burned. This 17 trillion is in the hands of the people, aka the sell pressure. These are the people that you have to worry about actually selling the price down. But what's very surprising is this stat that I'm about to show you that I couldn't believe my eyes when I first saw it. And I just want to explain how scarce I think Pulse actually is, how many weekends have actually been shaken out of this versus PLS, because everybody needs PLS to play the game of PulseChain. To gamble on other coins, you need PLS. But for the people that bought in PulseX early, think about the types of people that this were. These were people that missed out on the PLS sacrifice phase. So they had a longer 40-day PulseX sacrifice phase as opposed to like the 2-week sacrifice phase for Pulse. And this was years ago, right? But people aped in. So I think the cohort initially of these people were basically FOMO buyers that felt like they missed out emotional money. And that was shown when PulseChain launched, that PulseX dumped way harder than PLS. because it had weaker hands and it might have taken more time to shake out, but that's also a good thing when you think about the potential lack of sell pressure on the way up and how crazy PulseX could actually go. I mean, it could go up 100, 1000x. I could give you crazy numbers. It's all possible over a long enough time frame, life-changing money. Within the next year, something crazy is going to happen, but imagine the next 5 years. It could get even more ridiculous. So let's show you the holders of this, which is what blew my mind, okay? You've got almost 1/10 of the supply burned. Maybe let's call it 8%. 8% burned forever. A lot of weak hands shaken out, which we can tell by the chart over here. Oh, and another thing about this chart is look at how it's making, even though the chart is wrecked, okay, it's down. Look at when it is volatile to the upside. It swings up hard because it's low liquidity. So you have crazy volatility, but welcome to crypto. You picked the most volatile asset class in all of mankind because you picked it because the outside reward is also possible. But look when it fell right after launch. When it fell right after launch, this was just weak hands exiting. But ever so slowly, it made a higher floor here, slightly higher floor here, and we're going to see if it's going to make a new floor again. But these new floors, you could argue that they might have actually been generated by the buy and burn pressure, by the automated bot that is just buying and burning all the trading fees into PulseX. But here's the mind-blowing part. Okay, we're on plscharts.com. plscharts.com, and we're going to go to leagues. And the concept of leagues is who holds what, how many people are holding what percentage of the supply. So if you're new to crypto, you don't know about leagues. This is a concept of, you've got whales, sharks, dolphins, squids, and this is the ranking system of the holders. So it tells you, how many holders own more than $5 million worth of PulseX. Only one guy, which if he dumped it all, the market could probably absorb that and move on. How many holders own more than $500,000? Only 164 people. How many holders own more than $50,000? Only 126 people. So the majority of people that have a significant size bag is very, very low. For a coin with so much brand recognition that's been out for so long, that's got this automation aspect behind it. You've got 292 people, and this Poseidon is probably the origin address, right? 290 people that could significantly impact the price in any kind of significant way. And so you've got most of the guys who are turtles, crabs, shrimp, 200,000 holders own less than $500 worth. Not much of a threat to the actual price chart. So the scarcity of PulseX really did surprise me. And then you think to yourself, well, where aren't there more holders of this? And yes, there is a secret pocket of holders, but I personally don't think they're that big of a risk. And this secret pocket of holders that's probably not showing up here is over on the Earn protocol. So the Earn protocol here, this is an application where you can mint a stablecoin that's backed by your PulseX. Okay, it's called PXDC. If you've ever heard of the Liquidity protocol over on Ethereum DeFi, this is a clone of that. It's a tried and true decentralized stablecoin with no off switch. And we've got 4 of these on PulseChain, but this is one of them backed by PulseX. And you can see a bunch of people here open vaults. 140 vaults are open. Again, not that much, but this is maybe 140 other holders. Maybe some of the same holders as over here, but these are just other guys in a different place that's accumulated a bunch of PLSX. Now, is this PLSX something to be worried about? I would say it's not as worrisome as people with just liquid bags. Look, you've got a guy here with 15 billion pulse right here, 15 billion pulse right here. So you've got quite a few billions of pulse racked up that people are just taking out loans on against themselves. So this guy put in 15 billion pulse. He withdrew $46,000. He's got an 800% collateral ratio. A lot of these people have very high collateral ratios, but I don't consider these guys to be sell pressure as quickly as I would consider liquid holders to be sell pressure. And clearly, we had thousands of people join the PulseX sacrifice set. So the fact that there's less than 300 people left that even have, $50,000, there's only 164 people that have, mid 6 figures and up. It's not that many people. When you count 164 people in the world, it's minuscule. And these guys, I don't consider them as ready to sell, because if they wanted to sell, they could just get liquidated on themselves. They could just take out a bunch of stable coins, liquidate themselves. And that might be what a lot of these guys are planning to do. When the price of PulseX goes high, maybe they just, extract as many stable coins as they can out of their loan, and then they liquidate themselves. They lose their PulseX, but they keep their PXDC stablecoin. That is the play for a lot of whales, and clearly about 140 individuals, probably less. A lot of people have more than one wallet. 140 people have figured this out to some degree. Now, so far, PLSX is actually provably gaining on PLS And I'll show you why with this chart. You can't really deny this at all. It's just the truth. The price of PulseX has gone up relative to Pulse. So in the last 2 years, PulseX did win versus Pulse. Now, will this continue? I don't know. Maybe Pulse itself will pick up. Maybe more people will buy the gateway drug. Maybe Pump.Tire's volume will pick up. Maybe, fee burning will pick up from network activity increasing. All that stuff would help Pulse relative to PulseX. But if we flip to the ratio chart, here, look right here. This chart shows you the US dollar chart, but it doesn't show you the ratio in terms of PLSX terms. So this is the PLSX price versus dollars. Every PulseX is worth $0.00002.25. But we flip to Pulse by clicking this button up here. You got to say switch to the price in WPLS. You click this button here and it reveals something pretty undeniable, that over the last 2 years, after that initial dump with all the Jeets, the non-believers from the sacrifice phase, they dumped the chart down pretty heavy, about 50% versus PLS. But from that September 2023 mark, it's been a lot of up only versus Pulse, which means it used to be that you would get 4 PulseX for every 1 Pulse. Now, you almost get a 1-to-1 ratio. In the past, we did hit 1-to-1, I think. So the old ratio was 4-to-1. The new ratio is 0.75, which means, the inverse of that, 25%. PulseX was worth 25% of a pulse. Now PulseX is worth 75% of a pulse. We've seen it as high as 1-to-1, so it's on a little dip right now. Could this keep happening? I wouldn't be surprised. But this chart is really remarkable. This chart shows that the buy and burn has done something, and that up until now, this debate of which one's going to buy and burn more, the PLS fee burn versus the PulseX buy and burn, well, so far it seems like PulseX has been outperforming. Is this entirely due to the automated buy and burn? Probably played a significant part. So just keep in mind that when you're placing your bets for what's about to be some pretty explosive growth in the PulseChain ecosystem, don't sleep on PulseX. PulseX, sometimes I forget just how scarce it is and just how few actual holders there are, and how many weekends we were able to wash out during this 2-year shakeout. The bear market, the dark ages for PulseChain. Back when we had an SEC lawsuit, which we don't have anymore. Now we've got regulatory clarity. Back when we had a bunch of FOMO buyers and emotional hands to shake out. So at this point, it seems like we've got a lot of diamond hands left. It seems like the people that are easily distracted have gone to chase the endless shiny objects. The meme coin of the day, the meme coin of the week. A lot of people do that. And a lot of people probably sold their PulseX to go chase other stuff, which is fine because I've been holding this whole time. I've actually accumulated more over the past 2 years than I had at the start. And USD wise, you're still getting a crazy good deal if you are brand new. Just realize that people started out right around here, okay, at a 0.001 price. So you're still like 75% off in terms of initial prices. But a lot of those people are probably gone. So when you're thinking about which coin is more scarce, keep an eye on PulseX. PLS might change as well in the future. I'm not saying PLS is bad. I definitely am accumulating more of that too. And if you're brand new to crypto, I've got a course for you. I'll hold your hand, hexpassiveincome.com, link below. It'll teach you how to buy, how to sell, how to do crypto the right way, how to be confident in crypto, how to just not get your private keys stolen, how to not lose all your money and get scammed. Those lessons alone are worth thousands of dollars, but dirt cheap for the actual value that you get. Specifically, that's if you're new. I really recommend learning about crypto at some point before things take off here. See you guys on the next video.